It's time we talk about Adley Rutschman. Like, really talk about how Adley Rutschman has become the best catcher in the game of baseball at 25 years old. Let's look back to last year. When Adley Rutschman came up, you can point to that day as the day that the Baltimore Orioles organization turned around. Hardly ever can you point to an exact point when an organization turned around. But with Adley, the prize prospect that had all of the talent and all of the hype in the world, you can point to the day he came up that it all turned around. Last year, the O's were 16-24 when he got called up and in dead last place. They would go on to go 67-55, which is an 89-win pace for the rest of the year and be in the playoff hunt until the last weekend of the season. This season, the O's entering Wednesday were 20-9. So that's a total of 87-64 with Adley coming up to the big leagues. Again, you can point to the day the guy came up and say the Orioles organization turned around. Part one of why this guy is the best catcher in the game of baseball. For me, it's because this is 5.5 years of the Orioles being a bad baseball team, right? This isn't a team that was good, that they had a rough start to the season and turned it around when Adley comes up. No, this was 5.5 years of being bad. They hadn't seen a winning baseball team since 2016. And then the day he comes up, it all turns around. Come on, it reminds me of Pudge Rodriguez with the Tigers, right? In 2003, Pudge wins the World Series with the Florida Marlins, then signs that free agent deal with the Detroit Tigers and leaves people scratching their head like, why would you sign with a team that just lost 119 games and was one of the worst teams in baseball history? Pudge signs there. 2 years in a row, they lose about 90 games. And then in 2006, they're American League champions and in the World Series. But even that doesn't compare, right? That was a quick turnaround. But it took a couple of years from going from really bad to good. Adley, you can point to the exact day. Best catcher in baseball. Let's talk about on the field. Offensively, batting over 300 this year. A 5-for-5 start to the season on opening day in Fenway Park. Youngest Orioles player to hit a home run on opening day since Cal Ripken Jr. You might have heard of him. Offensively, last year, remarkable. A top 20 hitter in the game of baseball from June 11th on. So if you take out the first rough couple of weeks of his career, right? He comes up, there's a lot of hype. It took him a couple of weeks to get in his groove, I'd say. But from June 11th on, Adley was second in all of baseball in WAR behind only Aaron Judge, who we all know what he was doing last year. Second in baseball behind him. Offensively, like I said, a top 20 hitter. He's also a switch hitter, which I think adds to all of this. He's a catcher, the hardest position in the game of baseball, and a switch hitter, meaning double the work just offensively. He's basically got 4 jobs all in one, which is a baseball player, but catching, running a pitching staff, switch hitting, which is always something very interesting to me because it was hard enough to lock in one swing for me, and he has 2 completely different swings to figure out. And I had Adley on the show this week and was able to ask him about being a switch hitter.
They're 2 different swings, and I try to treat them as 2 different swings. You got to try and, balance out your workload because you want to manage your swings. And some days right-handed needs a little more love, and other days left-handed needs a little more love. And you try and just kind of figure out what works for you on a daily basis to get your head and swing in the right spot to go out and compete.
Offensively, the organization turnaround, best catcher in baseball. But catching, admittedly, is about a lot more than just team results or offensive results. It's about leading a pitching staff. It's about calling a good game. It's about framing pitches, getting your pitchers strikes, making your pitchers better, preventing runs from coming in. Let's talk about that. Framing. Adley was a massive improvement from what the Orioles have had over the last few years. Last year, according to StatCast, +4 in the framing category. Now, what does that mean? Well, to contrast, his teammate last year, Robinson Chirinos, was -14. The season prior, the Orioles' two catchers combined, Severino and Austin Wynns, combined to be the worst in baseball at -17. Adley is +4, meaning he's helping his pitchers be better, get more calls behind the plate, which is all you want as a pitcher. That's huge for you and leading a staff. He is one of the best in baseball at that. Again, framing, best catcher in baseball. Now let's talk blocking. Blocks above average, the newest StatCast metric. The best in baseball is Adley Rutschman. Let's talk about last year. The Platinum Glove winner in the American League, Jose Trevino, catcher, fantastic defensive catcher. Last year had 15 blocks above average. Adley Rutschman, with less time in the big leagues, had 18 blocks above average. JT Realmuto, who many considered to be the best catcher in baseball at the time, 14 blocks above average. Now, this metric might sound confusing, but let me explain because it really is important and it really is cool to understand. Based on the opportunities that Adley was presented, an average catcher would have been expected to allow 43 pass balls or wild pitches, the third most of any catcher, which the pitching staff has a big part to do with that. Yet Adley allowed a mere 25 of those to actually be pass balls or wild pitches, not 43. That difference is how you get the +18 that I spoke about at the top of the leaderboard. Compare that to Colorado's Elias Diaz, who also saw pitches that would have been estimated to become 43 pass balls or wild pitches. He allowed 42, +1 in that category. So as you can see, it's a big gap, and he's the best in baseball at blocking pitches. Again, this guy at 25 years old has become the best catcher in the game of baseball. The Baltimore Orioles in 2020 were dead last in that category of blocking balls. The 2021 Orioles, second to last. The 2022 Orioles, when Adley made his debut, they became the second best in all of baseball behind only the Toronto Blue Jays. This guy's the best catcher in baseball, and I am officially ready to say it. So he plays in every game as a catcher, which is mind-blowing. Yes, he's DHing on occasion, but the fact that he is a catcher and playing in every single game is remarkable. So to Cal Ripken, the Iron Man, in that same organization, watch out. You got Adley coming. He's only got a little over 2,000, a little over 2,500 games to catch you, but he's well on his way, and he's probably going to rack up quite a few accolades along the way. So Adley Rutschman, best catcher in baseball.